When we change our mindsets, we can change our outcomes. Save our lives from sadness, depression, and anxiety, thus giving us the freedom to live the life we want. Hi, I'm Stuart Haskin, founder of getsafe, and your host of the Movement for Change podcast. Hey podcasters, today I'd like to share an audio interview with our Guardian Director, Brad Young. His special guest is change-making Police Chief Eric Carlson. We're looking forward to seeing how his progressive department continues to evolve in this time of divide.
My name is Brad Young. I'm the director of the getsafe Guardian Division, which covers workplace safety, community safety, and law enforcement safety training. Today I'm with Chief Eric Carlson from Overbrook, Kansas.
That's right.
Which is essentially the epicenter of the country from from what I can tell from an airplane.
Yep, we're pretty close. I think one time I read that Salina, Kansas is the direct center of the United States, and we're fairly close to that.
Yes,
so,
I thought it'd be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
I started today in Idaho, went to Seattle, to Missouri, and then drove in. So it's been
a long day.
I've seen America today.
Yeah.
So, Chief, you brought us out here through the COPS grant, which is one of two things. Either you were issued a micro grant for de-escalation training, or you took advantage of their offer to fund crisis intervention and de-escalation training for your personnel. And when you initially called me, you're like, hey, we want to train.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with that, and then we'll get into who you are and what you do and why you do it. Why is it that you brought a company all the way from California out here to the middle of Kansas?
For punishment. No, I'm just kidding. So got in touch with you guys because we're looking to provide our officers with the most and best training possible. I'm sorry, they're sending us a fax.
This is live police department. Things happen.
So we want to provide them with the best and most training possible. Obviously, it's 2024, so budget is always a concern. So with that offer being out there through the COPS grant, I definitely wanted to capitalize on that. And get you guys here. Specifically, this training I think would be very beneficial to us because although obviously all of our officers go through the Kansas State Academy, we're always looking for ways to find the most equitable and peaceful solution to problems.
Sure.
And my understanding is this training really helps with that. We're trying to really change the mindset of, well, if the police show up, I'm going to get shot or tased. So we don't want that to be the perception that people have.
So I'm going to ask you this now. Officer-involved shootings, do they happen often around here? Or?
Obviously, they can happen anywhere. Knock on wood. We've been lucky. We've not had one. We are very close to Topeka, Kansas, which is the state capital, which has a fair amount. I've gone to more police officer funerals than I wish that I had. But we're pretty much 25 minutes from Lawrence, which is where the University of Kansas is, 25 minutes from Topeka, which is the state capital, both of which routinely have officer-involved shootings. The county that we're in, so it'd be the Osage County Sheriff's Office, they've not had one for some time, but it's always something that we prepare for.
Sure. So let's talk about you for a minute. How long have you been a cop?
About 21 years. I've been here in Kansas for about 11. I used to work for the Topeka Police Department. I came here a few years ago. I was actually going to start stepping away from law enforcement. That didn't happen. I'm glad that it didn't. I didn't realize at the time it really is something that's in your blood, and even if you do decide that you're maybe thinking about transitioning into a different career, your mindset won't let you do that.
Sure.
So I worked under Terry Hollingsworth for several years. He was the chief. Unfortunately, Terry had a heart attack and died in 2022. I became the chief at that time, so I'm creeping up on 2 years.
Okay. You said you came to Kansas. Where did you start?
I started in Illinois. I grew up in Illinois and started at a mid-sized sheriff's department there.
How close to Chicago?
About 2.5 hours.
Okay,
yep.
so
the Quad Cities. It's like Moline, Rock Island.
I got a buddy that worked out of a suburb of Chicago. He's a
like Naperville.
Maybe. I won't know the city if you even said it, because he's a big-time negotiator.
Oh, okay.
Talker. So like he goes around the country and now he speaks. He's retired now, so now he just goes and talks about how to talk to people. But,
that's cool.
he was from Chicago. So down to Kansas from Illinois. You've been a chief for about 2 years. So looking at your department online, it seems like you've got less than 20 cops.
Yeah, we have a total of 6, and then myself, and we have a police clerk / court / municipal court clerk.
So I've been just to look at the camera. I don't even know if anybody will watch this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I need to look at the camera.
But if I look at the camera and I say this, when I got here today, the chief was taking radio calls, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be a little bit behind because we're in the middle of something." And I was like, "Hey, I get it. This is police work is unpredictable, and Gordon Graham says if it's predictable, it's preventable, and because people."
Yeah.
There is no predicting it.
Yeah. Life happens.
Life happens. Great. So I mentioned your stats. You had your 2023 stats posted on the city's Facebook page. And then you had your February stats that I saw. And what I noticed is you had very similar numbers with mental health stuff as well as felonious arrests. Any collaboration between the two, or are we looking at drugs, violence, or are we looking at is there a connection?
In the felony arrest that we made last year, no. Actually, and that's one of the benefits of being in a smaller agency is I can actually remember all 13 of these things. So the vast majority of our mental health calls will be responding to what we call a check welfare. So somebody calls and says, "My friend, my dad, so-and-so, I haven't heard from him in several days, and they did make these comments." So we'll go do a check welfare. We cooperate with a group called Crosswinds, which is a private company that's contracted by the state of Kansas to handle mental health situations. So as long as it is not a dangerous situation, a situation where suicidal comments have been made, we're able to, with the help of Crosswinds, negotiate a more peaceful outcome, get them to the resources that they need. They actually have a mobile crisis team now that we can refer people to, even if it's not a life-threatening situation. If it's more of a long-term, this person just needs resources to reach out to.
So around the country, mobile crisis units that are civilians that are co-oping with law enforcement, it's new within the last 7 years-ish, on a larger scale. There's a couple agencies that have been doing it for a little bit longer. Do you like this model? Do you like the idea? And you don't have to answer because I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that it's new, and some cops I don't want.
Yeah.
And
I really can't say that I like it or don't like it. It's extremely new. It's actually new for 2024. So, and the way that Crosswinds does it, they respond after we have secured the scene. So for us, it's really more of okay, here's an option besides I'm just going to take you to jail. Because unfortunately, if you're the police officer working at 2:30 in the morning on Friday night, a lot of times that would be the only option that we really had was.
What do you do if somebody is suicidal?
If somebody is suicidal, we do what's called a mandatory admittal at Stormont Vale Hospital in Topeka, or the Burt Nash Center in Lawrence. There's a couple different places we can go, but if we do get to a scene and the person has made the key comments, and they've put us in that legal space where, okay, well, we can't leave, we would do a forced committal. We would obviously try to do a voluntary. My years of doing this, about 99 times out of 100, it's going to be involuntary.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, I don't know how you feel about it, but I have a chief of police here. I can ask this question now. Not voluntaries are great, but what happens if they change their mind?
Exactly. Yep.
And now you've moved them and you've put them in a spot where who knows what's going to happen. So it just seems like it's safer to write paper.
Yeah, and exactly. And at the end of the day, the goal is not to make that person's life harder. It's to make that person's life easier. And sometimes this is going to sound weird, you make somebody's life easier by forcing them to have 2 or 3 days of uneasiness where you really can't leave, but after 3 days you dry out a little bit, you start realizing what's going on, you start responding to what they're saying. So
are you seeing an issue where you're having mental health issues, like whether it be a mental illness or a suicide or suicidal ideation, and or substance use and abuse? Are you seeing that the two are? Now we know because we train this, but locally, are you seeing a combination of an overage of substance uses is encouraging or increasing the amount of mental health calls?
Yeah. In our jurisdiction, alcohol and drugs almost always intersect with a mental health issue. That's not always the case, but it is about 9 times out of 10. Almost always, if we do have to do a involuntary committal, we are taking some sort of substance off that person before we get them there.
What would you say is the number one narcotic that you see that you're seeing on the streets?
Methamphetamine.
Methamphetamine?
Yeah. Actually, the weird thing is when I was a kid, there was always cocaine. I'll bet I've seen cocaine only 15 times in all my years. And I think it's just outdated, but methamphetamine really started taking over, at least from what I remember, in the mid-2000s. And obviously fentanyl is becoming a big problem in this area as well.
If you had fentanyl issues. What about heroin?
Not a lot of heroin. We do see it. But I'd say out of 100 things that we confiscate, heroin's gonna be one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I got all sorts of questions. So, what would you say the biggest struggles you have as a police chief in trying to get everybody on the same page?
I would say the biggest issue that I have, one is budget, which is just always going to be a concern. 2 is recruitment. Trying to recruit the right people that want to do the job for the right reasons, and honestly just want to do the job. When I started out, I remember taking police tests, and they would divide it into 2 groups of 100 people to take the test for 2 spots. And now, I'm talking to some departments where they're like, we need to hire 20 this year. We only had 40 that even showed up to take the test, so they're just not...
In Kansas, do you go immediately into the academy, or do you have the option for road time before you go to the academy?
It's department by department. Some departments will not let you do anything until you've been to the academy. Some will let you ride with an FTO. That's what we do. Until we send somebody to the academy, they're allowed to work, but they have to be with another officer until they go.
Makes sense. Yeah, Idaho's similar in the sense that you can work the street for a period of time before.
Yeah.
And when we were talking on the phone, you were telling me, how many officers are in this county?
I should get my thing out. I can tell you. I want to say there's about 50. Yeah.
In the entire county?
Yeah.
In the entire county. Your numbers are...
Yeah. So the Osage County Sheriff's Department would be the biggest department, and they have about 20 deputies. And then between the various municipalities and the Parks and Wildlife and the troopers that work in this area, just a rough estimate, I want to say it's about 50. I'll probably be wrong. I do have a list that tells me that.
Interagency communication's good with each of them. We all work together. We're going to have some here tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're going to have some here tomorrow. Actually, I think there'll be almost one person from each agency here tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So my first agency there was, I think we had, when I started off, so it was, you had your admin staff, and you had sergeants, you had agents, what we call them corporals, we called agents, and then you had officers. When I started, my badge number was 53.
Oh, yeah.
And now when I left, I think their lowest badge number was down into the 30s, I think.
Yeah.
But you had 19 corporals, and you had 15 sergeants, and you had all of these, a little almost heavy on the top end, but still just you can't get people to work anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just one city versus an entire county. And I was driving out here, there's I don't know how you get away. You can see.
Yeah.
You can almost
You could
see Nebraska north and
yeah,
south.
exactly.
It's crazy. No, I've driven through Kansas one other time other than today, and it looks a lot different than what I remember.
Yeah.
What is it like policing in an area where you're it?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing about policing in an area like Overbrook would be I have all my administrative things and, budgetary, staffing, running of the department, making sure we have equipment. I have all those things I have to do. But when I'm on shift, I also I come on duty at 7 a.m. every morning because school starts around 7, so we have school zone enforcement. Well, we don't have an officer that's assigned to do that, so I do that. If calls come in, like there was a call that came in right before Brad got here, the Department of Children and Family Services was taking a child out of a home, so they needed a police officer to stand by while they did that. Well, Overbrook only has one on duty right now, that's me, so I go do that. So it's, some of it's nice because I do still get to, have my boots on the ground and do, what I signed up to do, but it also is very difficult because, and this will sound crazy, I remember when Terry would be telling me how much time he spent on paperwork, I would think man, that sounds like a lot of time. And now I understand why. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because the benefit is that one of our chief complaints that we hear, because we travel all over the country teaching, is that line level officers are disconnected from the chief because the chief never leaves the office except to go to meetings. But you're actually out pushing a black and white around doing police work. Now, going back to your stats, one of your highest stat numbers is your school zone enforcement. So that's some top-down leadership coming in and showing, hey, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And that's especially in a smaller community like this, that's really one of the community outreach and community policing expectations is, look, unless a house is on fire or there's a huge domestic, you're supposed to be here. So we really make an effort to do that.
So let's talk about that, community policing. So since the COPS office, which is community-oriented problem solving, is here, like with this training tomorrow, community-oriented policing. What is it that your community does to support you, and what if there were barbs or rocks in their shoes about the police, what would that be? Any
animosity I would say that we receive from the public is we have a major highway that goes through Overbrook. So we receive numerous complaints about, I never see the cops stopping enough cars. We actually stop a lot of cars. Invariably, you are going to stop somebody that lives in town. And you'll kind of get a little bit of pushback on that. But, it's a 90-10 thing. Sure. So 90% of the people are wanting us to do more, 10% are wanting us to do less. How do we combat that? One of the things I've implemented is, as a department, we really encourage the officers to just go out to the businesses while they're on duty. Eat at one of the restaurants. Go to Casey's, get a pop, chit-chat with the people in there. Doesn't even have to be about police work. Just about anything. Let them know who you are so that you're not just one of the police officers that they've never met before. We've also grown quite a bit. For several of the years when I worked here, there would be the chief, myself, and maybe 2 or 3 others that kind of were a revolving door of people. So now we've grown to myself, and I have 6 officers. So I'm trying to make it that everybody knows who everybody is, so they're not like, well, I've never seen you before, I don't want to talk to you.
Sure.
We also try to do as many community events as we can. Like all these boxes over here, it's coloring books, suckers, bad stickers. We try to have those with us, definitely, to give children a positive outlook on police.
Yeah, of course.
We also have, it looks like there's a bunch of sleeping bags over there. Those are what we call child safety kits. So those are something that we provide to kids in the event, unfortunately, that we do have to take a child from their home it's not such a cold, sterile environment. So it's got a pillowcase for them, because one thing we've noticed is a lot of times when kids go into a sink house, which is a child in need of care, that's what they call it in Kansas, there's no pillowcase for them. There's also a stuffed animal in there, just things like that to make the...
Soften the landing a little bit.
Yeah. There's any events that we ever have in Overbrook, we make sure that the police department's very involved with that and presenting a positive.
And that comes out of your budget to buy those soft landing kits?
Luckily, these ones were provided to us by CASA, which is the Children's Advocacy group.
Yeah,
but yeah, all the bad stickers, all that stuff, that comes out of our budget.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to paraphrase what you said, and I think it's a point that has to be articulated over and over again. Not to you and me, because we see it, we understand it, we've lived it, but you always see this division where you have community and police. Now, community doesn't always understand police, because most of the community has never done police work. However, but policing is a job, meaning once that badge comes off, even though you're still employed as a police officer, you then go become part of the community. So there isn't really a separation in the sense that they're two different things. One is a part of the other. One is a part of the whole, and just it doesn't go back down the other direction. So having that relationship. Now, do your officers live in town, or are they
right now,
commuters?
none of them live in town. One of them lives just outside of town. But, we come into town. Like tonight, after we get done with this, I'm going to trivia over at the library. So just a community event.
What kind of trivia?
I don't know yet. I'm hoping it's based on 80s movies or history. So
Sure.
Because I want to win. So.
We just did this place. They had two trivias back to back. The first one, going to that trivia night, got you a guaranteed seat at the next trivia night.
Oh, okay.
The second trivia night, they gave away a Scorpion CZ3.
Oh, nice.
9mm
Yeah. Yep.
That's what the winner got. But it was all conspiracy theories.
Oh,
and
okay.
out of 60 questions, I think my team, we might have gotten half, maybe. And that's because they didn't tell us our score. But that it's good. Like, that's engaging. I like it. If you had the platform right now to tell the world what is it about Overbrook that makes Overbrook unique, and why they should come and...
Okay. Overbrook is unique in that it is a very nice and safe community that has everything that you need. It has a good school system. There's very nice people that live here, and you're almost ideally located to 3 of the major hubs in the state of Kansas. You're close to Topeka, which is the state capital, Lawrence, which is where the University of Kansas is, and you're roughly an hour from Johnson County, which is the most densely populated county in Kansas. It's also the richest. And there's lots of things to do there, and that borders right up to Kansas City, Missouri, which is obviously a very large city. So
where I landed today. Right on. It is not what I expected, but I'm happy to be here.
Good.
So looking forward to it. Just because it's always good to do a plug, we offer trainings for officers that work with cops. Officers that work with kids as a school resource officers or juvenile probation officers, because kid problems aren't the same as adult problems, and understanding how the kid thinks helps you to navigate the interaction, rapport building with an adolescent. And then we have workplace safety training, which is comprehensive, that covers de-escalation, customer service, and violence prevention. And then, of course, we have our school safety and violence prevention package. Because we look at school safety, the biggest problem is we always think of things in terms of exterior threats coming in, but by and large, they're already in the building. So we talk about building relationships and pulling people up. Because the number one indicator is having a grievance. So we try to eliminate the possibility for grievances. So all these things can be found at getsafeusa.com. Chief, thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for opening up your office and just having an honest and candid chat. And all right, well, let's get to trivia.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to our podcast, Movement for Change. We hope that our discussion has left you with new perspectives and insights that can help you change mindsets and save lives. Please visit us at getsafeusa.com for resources, trainings, and if there's a topic you want to hear about or you have questions, please email us at info@getsafeusa.com. Together, we can make the change we want to see.